Welcome, everyone, to another March edition of Making Sense with Move to Amend. I am one of your hosts today, Grassroots Director Keyan Bliss here, and joining me is one of our board members and co-founders.
Hello, good to see y'all. George Friday here.
Glad you could join us, George. And we're happy to be here with y'all. So this is Making Sense with Move to Amend. And for those of you that are new to this program, Move to Amend is a national grassroots coalition working to amend the U.S. Constitution by unequivocally stating that corporations are not people and money is not speech. And in our movement building work, we seek to prioritize ongoing political education, as well as not just being a part of an anti-oppression campaign, but actually making us a central strategy to dismantle systems of oppression that exist, that wouldn't be here without the power of corporate power dominating every facet of our society. And we seek to the purpose of this show is to discuss current events and topics from the lens of Move to Amend, where our perspectives are at, as well as to just connect the dots between the current issues and the events of our time with the nature of corporate rule. With that introduction, let's we can jump right into this. For those of you that are tuning in, we do have chats, so we will be following along in chats. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer, you are free to include those in, and we'll get them to you as soon as we see them. So definitely appreciate you all being out here. Hey there, Greg.
Well, I know that we're called we're called Making Sense with Move to Amend. But Keyan, this is not a week that made sense. Not that much of our weeks have made sense. I know that about a year ago and during last summer, it really laid bare the deep, deep flaws in the system and how systemic racism must be addressed. I think for me, and this is just George talking, but for me, starting in January and up until this past week, has laid bare how entrenched some white people are, so much in white privilege, that they'd rather just be straight up violent than try to create conditions for even a modicum of peace and unity and community. It's like, oh, you want me to kill you? I'm sorry to say that out loud, but I'm one of these peace and love and peace and justice people from day one. So the idea that we're not sharing this country with people who are at least willing to contemplate what community and peace looks like, tilt.
True story.
I cannot compute. It does not compute. And we know that ongoing economic injustice fueled by corporate lies, it just feeds that, that we deserve and we are entitled sense of people.
Yeah.
So one tiny, really tiny piece of light in things that may have come from the top, and I didn't see this, but someone said it happened. They said that Biden came out in support of Amazon's workers for unionizing. That if y'all are listening and you think, oh, Uncle Joe is a real hero. No, he is not. Poor People's Campaign has been pushing for years. And part of him winning is probably the momentum that years and years of organizing has put in. And he would be a fool to not stand for labor right now. So that is our win. That's not Joe Biden doing the right thing. That's not the Democrats showing they're enlightened. That's them capitulating a tiny bit to our huge demands, which means to us we need to make more demands, louder demands, more consistent demands, and not let them get away with taking any credit because it's our work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like that's really what at the end of the day, that's how we at Move to Amend have been able to get as far as we have with our current amendment that's in Congress right now, the We the People Amendment. We're looking to reintroduce it this year, but like that we wouldn't even be in Congress right now if there weren't a groundswell of grassroots support demanding these things. We wouldn't have Joe Biden supporting unionized labor in Amazon, one of the wealthiest corporations on earth, if it weren't for people like Poor People's Campaign and so many others that have been fighting for this and demanding that he actually side with on the behalf of working people. And it's we're all, let's be real, we're all working people like doing this work, and we have consistently, like, the long history of the United States has like been, unfortunately, one long struggle for basic recognition of our human rights, and we've come a long way since the days when people like you and me were in chains, but we still have an even longer way to go, where like it feels like a lot of days like one step forward, two steps back. And this week, with everything that went on in Atlanta, and just the things that we're still dealing with COVID, it just feels like one of those weeks, unfortunately. But there
are lessons to be learned.
Yes.
Every continuing lessons to be learned.
True story. One of them being is like we need to have a serious, deep conversation about white supremacy here in the United States. Like it's been needed, and like we're still seeing those impacts. And like you brought it up before too. Corporate rule is has blood on their hands with how much it has enabled and perpetuated these systems of divides and oppression. To basically make a buck, the reason we see anti-Asian sentiment that's fueling this violence against their communities, it comes from the proliferation of misinformation and fake news that has been that social media companies like Facebook, Twitter have allowed to foster and flourish for so many years at a time. It led us literally to have Donald Trump in office,
right?
And
people we tend to, once you get washed, this washes over you so many times, you don't question it enough.
Right.
Last night on one of their regular Poor People's Campaign briefings and talks, and Reverend Barber is pretty awesome. And there was a worker from Alabama, someplace called, I think, Bessemer. And Monday, there will be a Moral Monday at the Amazon plant. So get on Facebook and find the Poor People's Campaign and go to that so they know that there are people showing up to support the Amazon workers. But what this person said is, and it fits with the history of how labor has been treated in this country, from labor and land. So it's, the legacy in the U.S. is we decimate the land from the indigenous people. We populate that land with enslaved people and cotton, because cotton was the way to make the money. So we need land to make cotton, kill the indigenous people, makes, enslaved people, make us wealth with cotton, and then building on that wealth. But to do that, people cannot be human beings. An enslaved person wasn't a human being. An indigenous person wasn't a human being. And to hear this worker talk in 2021 about her working conditions in Alabama at the Amazon plant, and that they were treated like they are part of the machine or a machine instead of a human being, it's appalling to the nth degree that in this country we've learned nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And the fact that we will put up with this, the fact that we will tolerate it, I mean, who are we that
Right.
we let this happen on our watch? We, the people, let these such and suches, you know the word I want to say, Keyan,
Mm-hmm.
get away with this on our watch.
Right.
They deserve better, so we got to do better. I got to
Mm-hmm.
take my camera off for a minute because I dropped something.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about these issues of oppression that we continue to struggle with, and like how we seem to just continue to lurch forward with the same problems that have been dealt with by our grandparents, our great grandparents, and their grandparents before them, it really just kind of I always look back to the where we began as a nation here in the United States. This won't be a surprise to many of you that have been following Move to Amend for a long time, but we recognize how the Constitution, as it was written by the original founders of the United States, it was rooted exclusively in property rights and how to control business, and only added human rights as an afterthought. But even after those rights were added into the Constitution with the first 10 amendments, I didn't see fit to actually include those within the original text. It still failed to define who is a person worthy of protection, and that's fundamental failure to identify personhood, define personhood, allowed for the business community that was part of the founding culture in the beginning of the United States to take advantage and insert government-created entities, corporations, into the founding document when there was no serious mention of it. And not only has it been able to insert itself, it's been able to claim the same rights that you and I are supposed to be having and recognizing, and actually being recognized for their personhood more so than Black people, than Indigenous people, than Asian American people, like immigrants. Everybody else has literally had to has to fight, struggle, and die, while business leaders have been able to get their corporate creation.
Go to the front of the line. Go to the front of the line. Go to the front of the line.
Talking to the judges, paying some money to lawyers to argue on their behalf.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why that's why we had this movement in the first place, to pass the We the People Amendment. We haven't yet gotten it introduced in the 117th. We're still waiting for HJR 48 to come up, but we are well on our way. We've got right now at least 42 co-sponsors that are promising to be the initial, or to sign on initially. And we also are shifting the conversation over this past 11 years that we've been involved in this movement, with new bills that are coming up that focus in on actually changing electoral policy to make it easier for us to actually participate.
Hey, Keyan, I want you to help me with something.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't do that much reading, and I don't watch the news on purpose because I, want to keep a good state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I know from just cursory reading that, the Democrats are way behind HR 1.
Yep.
And lauding it as the, be all end all bill to protect elections,
mm-hmm.
and to stop, bad things with elections, especially, in communities of color. So I know that there are flaws in that bill, because if the Democrats and the Republicans might like it, and the Republicans are just obstructionists, so, I'm not trying to go there, but if they're so happy about it, and I know they're bought and sold. So I know we need to be looking for the flaws, because they got to be there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what some of those flaws are, and you can help me talk with most people I know who are, all for it. And God bless you, John Lewis, that they took your name, baby. But, tell me what we should be doing.
So, great question, and it actually came up too in the chat of the question around HR 1. So for those that are just catching up, HR1 is For the People Act, which was introduced in the House as HR1, and then has a companion bill introduced in the Senate as SR1 just this past week. So some of the highlights of the bill on what it would do is basically it would expand and improve voter access to the electoral process. It would promote voter integrity by restoring the Voting Rights Act provisions that were gutted by the Supreme Court's case a few years ago. It would also recognize DC statehood. It would actually make it so that residents of Washington, D.C. could actually be represented and vote on not just their have voting power within among their representatives, but also participating within the broader election as a whole. It would also ensure election security. Disclosure of dark money political contributions would be required, as well as voluntary public financing of elections based on small individual donations, which would be funded by a surcharge on corporate lawbreakers and wealthy tax cheats, basically. It would also strengthen oversight of our campaign finance laws, as well as strengthening our ethics laws and impose greater enforcement powers for when it comes to ethics. But one of the things that is that we are finding most troubling with HR1, even with all of these, these other good benefits, we are always on the principle of advancing participatory democracy, however we can do that. But one of the things that concerns us particularly about HR1 is certain campaign funding provisions that are in the bill basically strengthens the position or the hold of the two-party system by making putting to smaller minority political parties third parties like the Greens and the People's Party, I'm blanking on some of the other parties, but there's a bunch of them that we don't get to see about because we're dominated by we're split into these these two parties that don't even represent a full majority of the country. But the HR1 For the People Act, unfortunately, would make it harder and put at further disadvantage third parties to actually getting public financing of their campaigns. It would actually, I believe, set the threshold higher for them to qualify for public financing. Whereas, before, I believe they had to secure at least 1% of the vote, or in order to get a certain amount. But unfortunately, it's gonna increase that threshold, as well as the cost to even participate as a third party candidate within local electoral races. Mm-hmm. So
creating barriers to democracy, barriers to participation. How can that possibly be a good thing? I saw a question here that I think we can answer. Judith posed it. It's actually, she made a point, not a question, that we should be aware of. Apparently, HR1 is called For the People Act.
Right.
And I didn't know that. I thought it was called John Lewis something. So So
we're talking about the For the People Act, and one of the questions that came up from Miles McManus was, does the For the People Act partially achieve some of our goals as moved to amend? Which to that end, I would say it advances our cause for participatory democracy, which is in alignment with our principles. Does it actually make it?
I give it 35%.
Yeah, I'd say 35%. It's getting us there. It's a step in the right direction.
Still a failure. 35% is not a passing grade.
Right. So to that end, we believe that it the For the People Act deserves the support for those provisions that do advance participatory democracy. What we do not support is this provision that would put smaller third parties at a disadvantage compared to Democrats and Republicans. So we need. So what we're asking for folks to do, is great. Want to pass HR1 and SR1? we support it, but we need this provision taken out so that there's actually a level playing field amongst political parties, because that's really what we need. And
they need to co-sponsor the We the People amendment.
Yes, exactly. Everybody that's signing on to HR1 should be getting behind the We the People amendment, which, you know, we're still working to get introduced. And there's actually, I believe, there is a provision in the For the People Act that calls for a constitutional amendment. It doesn't name one, but that one that would address the court decision in Citizens United and other campaign finance cases. So our amendment does all of that and more by making fundamentally answering the question of who is a person that are entitled to constitutional protections, basically natural persons, human beings. And want to lift up to a comment from our partner, our comrade Cindy Black, that there is another bill called the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which is HR 4. So that's the one that you're thinking of. I think that goes a little bit further to like really hone in on specific electoral reforms and policies.
It'll be hilarious.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's moving the ball forward, and it is, and it's a teaching moment for when we get reformist bills like this, which is why, you know, we're encouraging folks to ask their Congress members to support it, but ask them to remove the provision that would limit and disadvantage public funding for third parties.
Acknowledge that it's something, but it is not enough. It's falling short of what is truly needed to have a participatory democracy with as many people active in our civic engagement as possible. We're not trying to limit it. We're not trying to come up with another poll tax. We want every person to be civically engaged, to run for office, to vote in elections, to have access to voting whenever they can, late at night, early in the morning, over the weekend. No barriers to participation. So tell your elected officials that yes, all right, but it falls short. We can do better. And here's what better is: the We the People.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still playing defense right now with bills like this. And Judith points out correctly that HR1, while it references corporate personhood, does not firmly remove corporations from using their constitutional rights. And the simple fact of the matter is that For the People Act is basic legislation. It's a statute that cannot, and unfortunately, legal statutes can't overturn or override a constitutional interpretation by the Supreme Court.
Nope.
The Supreme Court has expressly interpreted the Constitution as protecting corporations and inserting and allowing them to claim constitutional rights that were originally intended for human beings. So as long as that interpretation is allowed to stand, we can't actually pass laws that can survive a corporate funded lawsuit challenging it or successfully overturning it. So
the ruling will go to a corporation every time.
Right.
Until we overturn that, the corporations will win every challenge that they have. Every time we try to stand up to them, we will lose so long as they have the standing in the Constitution.
Right. Greg Coleridge, our outreach director, makes a really good, a good precise framing of the For the People Act. The voting rights and ethics sections are good, but the campaign finance section should be set aside and dealt with separately. Which I think that's something that we would definitely agree with, because only a constitutional amendment like the We the People amendment can actually abolish these court-created doctrines of corporate constitutional rights and money equals speech. Which goes to the core of the Citizens United ruling and all the other constitutional rights cases before that, basically. So that's
I'm weighing the campaign finance sections heavier than voting rights and ethics, because we have had some good voting rights bills in the past and some measures to hold elected people accountable in terms of ethics. We've had some. but we have not ever had a way to control money in politics. From day one, they have had an unfettered access, and now it's, sanctioned.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to get a handle on it. We've never had a handle there.
Yep.
It's way past time.
Absolutely. And that's what we're seeking. That's what our amendment would really address. Some of the highlights, that we could go into about the We the People amendment, like we did with For the People Act. First and foremost, it would actually allow the people to assert our rights as natural persons, living, breathing human beings, and it would allow us to regulate and limit the powers and privileges of government created artificial entities like corporations, as well as unions and nonprofits like ourselves. Because right now, as long as corporations can claim the 14th Amendment rights of equal protection and due process, they can effectively assert and claim the same inalienable rights as you and me. Our amendment would also allow us to require the labeling of dangerous ingredients and products in our foods and other manufactured goods, currently impossible because corporations have First Amendment rights not to speak. It would also allow us to conduct surprise safety inspections to protect our workers, our consumers, and the environment, which we can't do, unfortunately, because the Supreme Court has recognized Fourth Amendment rights against search and seizure for corporations. It would also allow us to mandate fossil fuel corporations to keep coal, oil, and gas from being mined, drilled, or fracked, so that we can actually get a hold of our changing climate and prevent the environmental destruction that many of our communities, particularly communities of color, have been living on the front lines of. But we can't do that at the moment because corporations have a Fifth Amendment rights against takings, meaning the government can basically has to compensate corporations for lost profits due to our regulations, whether they be worker safety or public health or environmental. And it would also
so crazy.
Yeah,
sorry. It's just every time I hear it, it's just like so crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts how we in this, there's a country, any country in the
destroying your land or destroying your air.
Right. It would also too, and this goes straight to the heart, the core of the campaign finance section of the For the People Act. Our amendment would also require campaign finance regulation as a basic duty of government, not just the federal level, but at local and state levels as well, including requiring the disclosure of all permissible political contributions, so that we know exactly who's spending on who and where the money is coming from. But furthermore, it wouldn't just do this in a vacuum. It would actually mandates this with the express purpose of guaranteeing that all people, regardless of how much money they have or the wealth that they inherit, have access to the political process, and that no candidate, because of how wealthy they are, have a distinct advantage over over other candidates.
I do.
So For the People Act, it's a great it's a great step in the right direction. It was a small step in the right direction, I would say, but if we're really going to get to the root problems that exist within our current electoral system, we need to pass the We the People amendment.
So, Keyan, I'm going to challenge you. It's a big challenge right now.
Mm-hmm.
Name one thing that happened in the last week that was a definite plus.
Wow. Actually, that's a good question, and I have one. It's
you do?
It's
you
a
didn't
local.
Have to think? You didn't have to. Oh, it's Sacramento.
It is based in Sacramento.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and think of. I think there's one I have that speaks to the national level. I'm struggling to remember it, but one thing that happened well in Sacramento was in the past week, our county board of supervisors successfully voted down a planned expansion of our county jail system, which would have put county taxpayers in Sacramento on the hook for up to $200 million, plus $10 million for the contract that would have built an additional mental health care facility as part of the jail, basically. Which those that deal with this issue around incarceral issues, you can't get well in a cell. We need not cages, and this by voting this expansion down, it effectively frees up millions of dollars that we can actually put into alternatives to incarceration, which include a mental health crisis response line that is completely separate from law enforcement and the 911 dispatch. So
that is wonderful. Y'all got to stay on that though.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't watch out. They'll be like, oh, that 200 million's been reallocated to blah, 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 blah. Seriously.
Right.
Because, you can't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on it. Make sure you secure that win and do something with it, because they are some slimy so-and-sos. But that's great. So what's the national one?
National one, we were able to get more stimulus relief within the past week. And in fact, it's coming along, the stimulus checks seem to be coming in quicker than what it was before. I believe some people I know have already gotten their checks within the past week since it was passed. So it's just like, great. People needed that money months ago. Better late than never. Sadly, though, it doesn't. One of the downsides of that is that the Relief Act doesn't actually protect those funds from being collected by debt collectors. So anybody that's
if you're behind on your rent since January, it's gone, and it's not enough to cover more than maybe a month of rent for someone.
Yeah, I mean,
so that sucks. What a bummer.
It does. I believe extend a moratorium on evictions.
Even if you're renting.
Yes, no cause evictions and whatnot, and even if you're behind on payment, I think that's still in effect. But it doesn't stop you from student loan debts, that would or if you have taken out loans from the bank for any reason, and it's already in collections, and your wage is your income tax liens or wage garnishment. That in of itself is is significant problem that millions are going to be facing. So
so if y'all are watching and you have any good news to share, put it in the chat. I'm seriously jonesing for something that does make a little sense, because we're making sense, but are we holding on to our sanity?
True story.
So maybe we need to change this to making sense and staying sane with Move to Amend, because it's like, well, I know that there used to be a bumper sticker that said, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm
okay.
Yeah.
So right now it's like, if you're not feeling crazy, you're not paying attention.
Right.
Because it is. Things are like, come on, y'all. Come on.
Mm-hmm. One of the, a common refrain a good friend of mine here in Sacramento likes to tell people in power. It's when they're talking about increasing funding for law enforcement agencies that already get as much as a third of local budgets or whatnot. It's make it make sense for me. Why are we putting so much money in here while taking money from places like public health departments, like parks and recreation departments, schools, even, things that we actually need within society that don't have a gun and a license to kill, basically. One good thing. Greg Coleridge coming in with a bit of good news. In a historic victory over the fashion industry, garment workers have won billions in stolen wages. The Pay Up campaign's battle against wage theft has clawed back $22 billion from apparel companies during the pandemic. And they're just getting started. So,
yes.
News. Thank you, Greg.
We like that. Just a little piece of justice.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We'll take it.
A couple of
be big.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of other small things I think that came up too. Minneapolis, where the trial right now of murder of
George Floyd's murderer.
Yep, is underway. Jury selection was allowed to continue. The trial was not delayed significantly, and it's going to stay in the city so that we can so that the community that he harmed can actually hold him accountable, not just like move it out to a different municipality that will likely acquit him or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I wish they would apply, and this won't happen. And this is just me. I don't want Move to Amend to get in trouble for anything I ever say. But I wish they would apply some restorative justice principles to this case, which would mean this guy's got to volunteer at a Black church for 20 years, 30 hours a week, or something of that, like that.
Yeah.
Something that is of the mind of. But it goes back to what I was saying at the start of this our call, Keyan. The concept of restoration, of reconciliation. I know some people call it forgiveness and reconciliation. I'm not that girl. I don't have that forgiveness thing deep. I've got compassion and love.
For me, it's
not so much forgiveness.
For
you, it's truth. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm about truth.
The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. Right.
Oh yeah. So truth, accountability, and reconciliation. I can forgive your ass once you've, paid, made amends. But you got to make amends. You got to do that 30 years of volunteer time or whatever, and then you good, we cool. So I don't know. I just feel like we've shifted into a place where someone is going to see I'm an enemy just because of what I look like. So that takes us back like 100 years, 150 years.
Yeah, doesn't even take us back that far. I mean, like we've been dealing with that from day one of this country. Like we had like slavery and land theft enshrined within the original document right then and there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because I grew up in it was the 60s, 70s, and 80s here in the South. And, racism was, tangible, but not dripping.
Yeah.
I could talk to somebody who was a different race and get along if we were the same class. But now, I don't even know if I can step to a bruh at the gas station or the grocery store without getting a snarl on their face, therefore inspiring me to smack them upside the head. This gets us nowhere. This is not the kind of world we want to build. So I'm confused, and my, making sense and staying sane with Keyan Bliss and Move to Amend at this point in time on the 19th of March is also about trying to hold on to the hope that we can build unity, and we don't all have to think alike.
Right. We don't need to agree on every solution, or
you have to recognize my humanity, and you cannot oppress me. Then we can't roll.
True story. Greg asked a question of what do you both feel about truth commissions as a means to address long-lasting problems and seek reconciliation?
I don't know if I know enough about truth commissions. I know that when I hear the truth about race, racism, sexual violence, homophobia, acts against people of different faiths, acts against people who are not U.S. citizens, it doesn't feed my hope and my vision of community. It feeds my grief and my rage, neither of which need any fuel. So that's why I'm at the accountability and forgiveness. So I can come in the room after all the truth stuff has been told and say, okay, y'all, so what y'all gonna do? How are you gonna repair this?
Right.
How are you going to compensate for this? How are you gonna mitigate the harm?
Right.
And after we've planted something good where you blew stuff up, after we've built something where you tore something down, then we're together. Then we've got unity. But it does mean it's conditional.
Yeah.
You can't have I know the Supreme really, really evolved people of faith have unconditional forgiveness. I'm not that evolved. There are conditions, I think, that need to be met first. And that means that those conditions being met equates to justice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, that's me. That's not Move to Amend. But I don't know that much about the truth commissions, Greg. I know that when they were doing Truth and Reconciliation in Greensboro, after the Greensboro massacres, and I was still in college, I just wasn't having it.
Mm.
Because what I was reading and seeing, and good friends were involved, people who are people of faith, who I really respect and love. But what I was hearing from them, and they were at the table, and seeing in the newspaper, felt like white people just getting away with it. Saying, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was wrong. And then it was poof, gone. You know, everybody's clapping and applauding and patting themselves on the back. Nothing changed. The poor people and the Black people in Greensboro, did they have more rights? No, they still get harassed and beat up and killed by the police. There's not a shift in the system. There's not justice that is tangible, that you can hold on to, justice for people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think justice is more than just words, more than just a pretty word. It's actually reflected in action, and how and showing how you are implementing justice, showing how you are actually changing your behaviors. Matters more than just even just fun, even just talking about what is truth and what is not. For me, from what I understand of truth commissions, which is basically from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is fact-finding missions, basically, of identifying what actually went down, how did this happen, and
which is traumatizing.
Right. The people
think about a chicken plant where people got locked in their chicken plant and burned to death in Hamlet, North Carolina, in the late '90s. I don't want to be in the room when they're talking about how that happened.
Right. The people that experience the trauma and the and are dealing with the oppression know the truth. Yeah. Not to convince us. It feels more like such commissions are more to convince the people, the oppressor of what they did.
Yes.
In the instance of white, you were talking about white supremacist violence, for truth commissions, it's to convince white people that what they do was.
But that means it's not legitimate, Keyan. That means it's not real. It's not legitimate. It's not taken seriously until a white person has sanctioned it in a form that they will accept. Mm-hmm. So I got to have all my wounds bleeding on the floor before I get help from your ass. I just can't say ouch. You got to open all the wounds. But that is not, I digress.
Yeah. Yeah, to say to say that they are fundamentally worthless, I wouldn't say so, because at least
no, not at all.
Accounting, a public record of what went down, but at the same time, it's traumatizing for the people that actually experience it.
It absolutely is. I'm sure. Nuremberg is some traumatizing shit, but it was essential and important. As I'm sure these truth commissions are essential and important to document what happens. I know that one of the great things about last night's meeting in preparation for supporting the Amazon workers on Monday was the woman who gave her testimony, who is in Bessemer, Alabama, was giving that testimony at a Senate hearing. She, at the opening recording that they showed on the Zoom last night, you see Bernie Sanders saying, and now we will hear from, so there must have been some Senate hearing of something on maybe Amazon or on working conditions. Again, I don't pay enough attention to the news or read enough about these things to know. But Bernie Sanders introduced her. The woman spoke when she talked about being a machine and being treated like that. And then that was the end of that. And it must have been a relatively recent Senate hearing. I didn't look at the date, but it was very good. And one piece of news that I can't say exactly, maybe someone listening here does know, that happened last week. And it was in the South, a Southern, I think it was a state and not just a city, passed a law forbidding, and this is just hard to believe, maybe Tennessee, I can't think of where it was, forbidding private prisons, banning private prisons in wherever they were, state or city. And it was in the South, is all I can remember. And I thought that is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be such a win to say no more private prisons.
Yep. No more private prisons would be.
It's a small step. It would be like HR 1, but it would be a little step. We need every step we can get.
Yep.
So is there anything good coming up? Move to Amend is doing this week or this month? Well, the month is over halfway over. Mm-hmm. So we've had a number of our monthly calls. But is there any event coming up? Oh, look, it's your spring 2021 survey.
There you go.
You can win a T-shirt.
Yep.
I'll show you one, but I don't have mine. I can put up right now and show you. It's not clean.
That's not a bad thing, really. It's like, means it's getting used. But yeah, take our spring 2021 supporter survey, and you'll automatically enter a drawing for Move to Amend T-shirt. So if you go to the link that's on the page, that's the long form link. There is a short form, or there's a shortened link. If you go to just bit.ly MTA-survey-21 -2021. I'm sorry. You can enter the form in as well. So fill out the supporter survey. Give us your thoughts. Your input is very needed, and you'll be hopefully will win a T-shirt. You'll be entered into the raffle for one. So yeah, that's really the biggest thing that's coming up right now, although there is, of course, our ongoing campaign for the 117th Congress. We're looking to recruit 100 co-sponsors to support the We the People Amendment by the time it is introduced. And if you go to movetoamend.org/117 campaign, you can find all the instructions, all the sample materials, including call scripts, sample emails, and even meeting prep agenda, like sample meeting agenda templates. Like everything is already laid out there for what you need to do. We just need people to do it. So take a look at the website. If your Congress member is a previous co-sponsor or has said that they're supportive of overturning Citizens United, we want them to support this amendment. So the basic thing you can do is call your House representative, ask them to co-sponsor or to work with our lead sponsor, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, to support the We the People Amendment, co-sponsor it.
And you can call more than once.
Right.
Like, call them on Monday or Tuesday, and then call them again on Thursday and say, have you signed it yet?
Yep.
And then if they haven't yet, call them the next Monday or Tuesday. Have you signed it yet?
Mm-hmm.
And then call them again 2 or 3 days later. Have you signed it yet?
Yeah, that's
making it clear that this is important, and I'm gonna make sure you do it.
Yep,
they respond to us,
and they need to hear that from their constituents. Like one of the most frequently repeated things that we hear from congressional offices that we meet at the national level is they want to hear, they want to know how many constituents are supporting this. We usually will provide, lists of petition signers that are from their district to show that they're these thousands of people want them to support it. But really, nothing beats a old-fashioned phone call and even just a letter, or write an email to them and ask them where they stand on this and will they co-sponsor House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People Amendment. Now, it hasn't been introduced yet, so make sure that when you're talking to offices now until introduction, that you're letting them know that will you be an initial co-sponsor for the We the People Amendment when it is introduced in the 117th Congress? A couple of questions came up on our status with the We the People Amendment. Cindy Black asked how many co-sponsors have signed to HJR 48 so far. So from the last Congress, we finished the 116th Congress with 75 co-sponsors, and we had introduced it in that cycle with just 20 initial co-sponsors. So we are, and we broke our goal. Meet our goal for the end of 2020. So now we're looking to break the goal for 2021, which is getting 100 co-sponsors in the House before the end of the year. And right now, if you're looking on the screen, we have 42 co-sponsors who are committed to being initial sponsors for reintroduction. So we're almost halfway there, and we still need a lot more help. And there's still several offices that were co-sponsors last year that have yet to sign on. So if we can get all of our co-sponsors that were on board last year, we will only need so few, just barely 25 to co-sponsor this year. So it's absolutely possible between now and the end of the year, and we're looking to go hard between now and the end of the month for this campaign. It might even go a little bit longer just to get things moving, because obviously this year has not made sense starting off with an attempted insurrection and then just a question questions of voting fraud and all this crap that's been going on, and so Congress is behind schedule right now. We usually
they are.
Every other year we've been amendments been introduced usually by February or March at the latest. Right now we're hoping that it gets introduced before the end of April. That's what we're currently anticipating, but it's anybody's guess. Now that COVID relief has been passed, their bills in Congress are moving much faster. So we're hoping that it will accelerate the process and we'll get the amendment introduced here momentarily as soon as HJR 48 comes up.
Tell your rep, they want to be on the right side of history. And this is a historical time that, these few years are going to be remembered for decades and decades to come. And they don't want to be on the wrong side of history here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things too another thing that you can do, we are doing a monthly day of action on the 28th of every month. This month, 28th falls under on a Sunday, so it's going to be the day of action. This month is going to be the 29th. And we're encouraging folks to record a short 30-second video to calling on your rep to support the We the People Amendment, telling them why you support the We the People Amendment and why they should as well. So if you're looking on the screen, you can go to the one-click politics link that's on there. It does it all for you. You don't have to record the video yourself. Just go to the link. It'll prompt you to record a short 30-second video. It'll even give you the timer. Just give a short and sweet why you support the We the People Amendment and why your House rep should too. And it will once you get a chance to review it and download it, and then you can click send
and re-record it. If you don't like it, you can do it again until you're satisfied.
Right. It's a really intuitive process. There's no you don't have to be tech savvy to do this. Just go to the one-click politics link, follow the instructions there, and you can send a short video set and let your Congress member know that you want them to support the We the People Amendment. So that's summing up. You can do that anytime, but definitely do it on March 29th, the day of action. So just record a short 30-second video telling them why.
Great.
Other ways
for doing that, y'all.
Yeah, definitely. Other ways too to get involved with Move to Amend and support our movement is signing our petition. That's the basic bare minimum thing you can do. And then when you sign it, share the petition by just using our link. If you go to movetomend.org/motion, you can sign the petition there and then share it on your Facebook feed. And those of you that help spread the word can actually win prizes as well. If you go to movetomend.org and sign up /recruit, movetomend.org/recruit, to sign up for potential prizes for helping us spread the word and recruiting people to support this movement. And also, too, we have a text number to amend. You can text to amend by texting amend, AMEND, to 707-656-4019. That's something you can say, at the end of a public comment on a meeting or whatnot, and just like bring it all out. It's really easy to add your name and join over 475,000 people who are supporting this amendment across the country. And of course, before I do that too, as well, check out our movement education program if you're looking to become a Move to Mend organizer, and as well as working with in solidarity with communities on the front lines of struggle against corporate rule. Check out movetomend.org/education3. And also, if you can't do any of that, you can always donate. We like to remind folks that our staff right now during COVID-19 have been largely working on a volunteer basis. We've been able to rehire a couple of our staffers to join to come back on full time, but half of us are still volunteers. So if you go to movetomend.org/donate, it would be super helpful to keep this movement going. 90% of what we get, of our funding comes from small grassroots donors. So this is really a grassroots funded campaign. So please, whatever you can give will help. And if you do not need the stimulus either, if you don't need the stimulus bill because you're been taken care of right now, please consider supporting Move to Mend with those funds. So but really any amount helps. And with that, that's all I had to say. Anything else you want to sign up people off with, George?
So I'm going to share with you one of my coping mechanisms that keep me, well, I don't know if it's keeping me sane, but of late, it's been going for a long time. So, and I think I may have told you this one, Keyan. Old song, what is the name of it? All You Need Is Love. So when I start feeling really, really, really at the end of my rope, I just hear the chorus in the back of my head. The love, love, love over again. I won't sing. I don't want to hear me sing. But, that helps me I just hear that and I'm all right. So find a way to get through the moment, to get through the day, to get through the hour with as much vision and love and hope as you can, to mitigate all the other crap that is coming like a tsunami. We're going to be all right.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, we are.
One of the things that helps me get through in insane times like this is, and maybe it's more of just the expression, like the catharsis that I can get from it, but taking action in the streets. Given that it's, we're entering spring, people are starting to come out, and we're actually starting to have more local action. So one of the things I like to do that really gives me peace is being out in the street with people, speaking truth to power. And that also means calling into city council meetings and county board meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Like me, I'm pretty unspoken here in Sacramento, so I don't have a problem speaking the exact truth, no matter how blunt or harsh it may be, to those people in power, because they're used to that comfort, and it's good. The only way we grow and learn is when we're pulled outside of our comfort zone.
That's right. Absolutely. Keep on a mask. Stay safe.
Yep. Thank
Don't
you all.
let them spit on you.
Yep. Definitely keep up the great work, George, out there with Poor People's Campaign and everything else that you're doing. And everybody that's watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Much love,
See you
y'all.
next week, y'all. I won't be here, but Move to Amend will be.
Yeah, actually, next week will be our program director and national director, Jessica Munger and Caitlin Sposi-Belknap on Sense next Friday. So tune in again.
That'll be fire. All right, then. See y'all.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.